Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are covering a commander that got me back into Magic, back into Commander itself as well. Ulalek the Fused Atrocity is the 5-color Eldrazi tribal I've been waiting for a long time. He is pretty disgusting. He's competitive and casual at the same time for doing more of a tribal theme. He is 5-color, but for the sake of trying to keep it a little bit cheaper and not as hyper sweaty, I've done him in Temur. Definitely the easier option because there's not many Eldrazi fun cards that are in black and white. More utility pieces. So 3-color Eldrazi, easy to cast. There are a lot of expensive upgrades for this deck and it makes it pretty broken pretty quick, but we're trying to keep it on the bit more sensible end. So Ulalek, Fused Atrocity, 5-color, hybrid of each one, for generic of course. 2/5 with Devoid. Whenever you cast an Eldrazi spell, you may pay 2 colors. If you do, copy all spells you control, then copy all other activated and triggered abilities you control. You may choose new targets for the copies. This commander cares about the stack a lot. The only condition has to be an Eldrazi spell cast. If you do, copy all other spells you control. Spells are on the stack, it doesn't have to be an Eldrazi, it could be a draw spell, a murder spell, it can be anything under there, you're going to get copies of those too. Another part to this deck is the brand new card Echoes of Eternity, 6 mana enchantment drop, which just does what Ulalek does again. If a triggered ability of a color spell you control or another color permanent you control triggers, do it again. And whenever you cast a color spell, copy it. Really good because it also gets artifacts too. So a simple example, which a lot of people use for Ulalek, is Ulamog. He's a 10 mana, big fat Eldrazi. When you cast him, someone's exiling half the library. Ulalek's like, hey bro, cool Eldrazi, do you want 2 of them for an extra 2 mana? You're like, actually I do. You pay the 2 colors, you get a Ulamog. Though, with a lot of Eldrazi that say whenever you cast a spell, do this. The cast trigger is a triggered ability. So you're going to get 2 copies of Ulamog's triggered ability there, which is exiling half a library. Now if you're a nice person, each opponent gets half of their library gone, or do it to one person twice, exile 3/4 of the library or 75% in one hit. And then they probably lean across the table and slap the shit out of you for it, and that's probably game in a lot of cases. Ulamog also gets counters on them equal to the greatest CMC you milled out of their library, or actually in exile in general I should say, and he has Annihilator X equal to number of counters on him. He can win the game pretty quick on that alone. Now, when we add Flash into the mechanic, we can start using the stack and getting a lot of extra copies for things. So you need a Flash enabler, taking Skittering Cicada for example, which says color spells have Flash. Cool, don't care about the rest of the guy, he's done his job already. I cast Glaring Flesh Rake for 3 mana. I want some extra Eldrazi spawn going on and dealing damage to my opponent. Ulalek's like, hey bro, do you want to copy that? I'm like, no, let me cook, I want more things to do. I'm going to flash in a Soul Ring because of the Skittering Cicada. I'm going to cast my instant speed Warping Whale and I'm going to make another colorless token for example. And then I'm like, okay, I'm nearly out of mana. Let's cap that off with Eldritch Immunity just to give someone protection. I don't care about the protection, it's just to close off the stack. Because the last spell will have to be an Eldrazi for Ulalek to see it and check it. So I've cast Eldritch Immunity, he's like, oh cool, another Eldrazi spell bro, do you want me to copy it now? And you're like, actually I do, here's my 2 colorless mana. And then he's going to go through and copy everything on the stack downwards. The Eldrazi needs to be the last thing cast on the stack. If you've got enchantments or artifacts on the board or creatures that are seeing things happening, saying whenever you cast a spell do this and that, they're going to stacks as triggered abilities, which will get copied too. A fun thing too is, it works for Annihilator, because Annihilator is a triggered ability on declaration of attack. If you can flash in, say, Dimensional Infiltrator, and you pay the 2 mana for Ulalek, you can copy the Annihilator 2, for example, from the Breaker Creation, and go to Annihilator 4. It's pretty good, not gonna lie.
Anga bunga, anga bunga.
Now, I wanted to include one of each of the big Eldrazi Titans to kind of have the theme going on here. They're pretty pricey. If you want to include other variants, you can, but I'm just trying to keep the cost down, but have a bit of flavor at the same time. New Kozilek, he's a 9 mana 9/9. When you cast him, up to 2 target players, each manifest 2 cards from their hand, sorry. Each card manifests away, you get to draw a card. You just pay the cost to flip him over. For you, it can be a way to cheat some big things on the board eventually. And he makes all your colorless creatures get 3/2 in addition. As he goes, you kind of just use him as a beatdown strategy to use a little Eldrazi spawn and tokens just to smashing people dead. Then there's Emrakul, the World Anew. He's a newer Emrakul, a 12/12 for 12 with Madness 6 if it came up. When you cast him, gain control of all creatures target player controls. Really good option with your commander to copy that effect. You won't get 2 Emrakuls because one will die to the legend rule, but you can steal 2 players worth of creatures He has flying and protection from spells and permanents that will cast his turn, makes him really hard to get rid of. And when you leave, you sack all creatures you control, so your opponent don't get their shit back. Then there's the new Ulalek. He's like 30 bucks and he's the cheapest of them, and he's still great. Like I said, exiling half a library when he's cast, he can give himself ward by sacking permanents, and that massive fat annihilator trigger.
Ma, they following me, Ma. They following me.
Who following you?
The bugs.
The bug.
Try and include other big Eldrazi that can kind of support these guys over here. It That Betrays, an oldie but a goodie. He's a 12 mana 11/11 with Annihilator 2, but whenever an opponent sacks a non-token permanent, we get it under our control. If your opponent sacks a fetch land, you get it. Whenever they sack things from Annihilator, you get it. If you've got an Aristocrat's deck in the field, you get it. Flavour of Loyalties is Eldrazi Conscription on a stick. It's a 10/10 for 10. Whenever you cast a spell, a really good option for your commander by the way, gain control of target creature to end the turn, untap it. It has base power and toughness 10/10, trample Annihilator 2, and haste. And the Flayer itself has trample and Annihilator 2. Hideous Taskmaster, similar effect, 7 mana 7/2, kinda weak though, gets often killed in blocking but deals some damage. When you cast it, gain control of up to one target creature player controls, untap it, haste, trample, Annihilator 1. He himself has trample, haste, Annihilator 1. Oblivion Sower, a really good candidate for your commander and a bit extra ramp. When you cast him, exile top 4 cards of someone's library. You get all the lands exiled that way. With the commander, top 8, you're probably gonna get a few lands out of it. Artisan of Kozilek is an oldie but a goodie. He's a 10/9 for 9, just reses the creature from your graveyard with Annihilator 2. If you've been milled or you've lost a few of the big Eldrazi's, he comes in handy getting them back. Conduit of Ruin, I remember this used to be a cheap like bulk rare, now it's like pushing 10 bucks. It's a 6 mana 5/5, makes your first creature spell every turn cost 2 or less, helps with the big fat Eldrazi. But when you cast him, you can go and 2D yourself for a big Colours creature with CMC 7 or greater. You go and get one of the big Eldrazi or the Titans, and it goes on top of your library after you shuffle it.
Where shall my blood be spilled?
Now for the smaller Eldrazi, Herald of Kozilek, simple, 3 mana, just makes your other spells cheaper, can't go wrong. Makes Soul Ring free. It That Heralds the End, he's a 2 mana, similar effect. Your bigger Eldrazi's basically 1 less to cast, and he buffs your little weenie tokens too. Sowing Micro Spawn is a really fun card. It's a 4 mana 33 drop with kicker. At worst, when you cast it, search your library for a land card, put it on the battlefield. Any land card. We've got some pretty strong lands later on. And if you kicked it, you can exile target land. Just try and rip your opponent off a color if you can. Null Drifter is my boy. Muldrifter back. He got Eldrazi-fied. He has Annihilator 1 and flying, and you can still evoke him to draw cards. Look, I love him. He's just a great little utility piece. Endbringer. Some people don't like him. I do. He's a 6 mana 5/5 that gets to untap on everyone's step. At worst, he's just headshotting weenies across the game. Tap him, deal 1 damage to any target, keep Planeswalkers in check maybe. Pay 1, tap, something can't attack or block. Do not underestimate that in a politics kind of game. And pay 2, tap, draw a card. Can't go wrong. The Waterscape Battle Mage, if you pay the kicker with 2 costs, you can do a few options. If you go the green, you're exiling an artifact or enchantment. If you do the blue, you get to do bounce a creature back. He's doing your options, he's still an Eldrazi, which we care about. Thief of Existence, I'm wanting to try. He's a little free drop, but when you cast him, exile up to 1 target non-creature, non-land permanent opponent controlled with CMC 4 or less. Basically, you're going to steal their mana rocks, is what I'm thinking. But when he leaves, they do get to draw a card, but they don't get it back. So he's got some value to him. Also, another good option for your commander to steal 2 things.
Nice.
Some big key pieces to focus aren't Eldrazi themselves, or the Null Kite is, but they really help the deck function. The Null Kite here, you cast it, you get to ditch your hand to draw 3 cards. Could be handy late game, but each creature spell you cast has a merge. It helps you sack those little Eldrazi and cast into the bigger ones that probably in the mid game, a bit faster than you should. Cryphix, the God of Horizon, lets you stockpile mana in the form of Colorless 2, which we do care about. He's indestructible, he's going to hang around forever. It does help your hand size. In late game, you have a bit of heavy draw, which could help, but it's that stockpiling the mana. Cryptolith Right lets your little creatures tap for mana, well, all the creatures, but your little Eldrazi tokens could tap for mana and then sacrifice them for mana too. Pretty handy. Forsaken Monument, you just want to play it in a deck like this. Buffs all your little tokens, all your creatures get 2/2. Whenever you tap a permanent for colors, you get additional colors. Goes infinite with Basalt Monolith later on, and whenever you cast a color spell, just gain 2 life. It does a lot of things in this deck. Cloudstone Curio lets you bounce creatures back when you're casting creatures. It's just so you can get more cast triggers from your commander on the little Eldrazi which you care about. Mirage Mirror. It can become a copy of an artifact, a creature, an enchantment, or a land on a turn. A lot of good options there. If you can, you're going to copy Echoes of Eternity before you cast something you care about, and you're going to get a lot of copy triggers and copies of things. Great with like Kozilek's Ceiling if you want to cast a big Eldrazi and you want to draw 3 cards. You're going to draw 6 cards probably. If you need another beatdown, copy any big Eldrazi, get more Annihilator in the board. Some flash outlets which you do care about would be Skittering Cicada, which a lot of people cover. The Urza's Battlethopter, it just gives all your color spells flash, and artifacts too. I hate the artwork on the thing a lot, it's dumb. And Void Grafter and the Dimensional Infiltrator are just individual Eldrazi's themselves with flash, which we do care about every now and then. With the Infiltrator, it's pay to target opponent exiles top card out of the library. If it's a land, you can bounce them back. Whenever your opponent scries one, just do that to send a message. Alright, for making Eldrazi tokens, which we care about for mana ramp of course, Awakening Zone's a 3 mana drop on each of your upkeeps you get to make yourself a little 0/1. Simple as that. Path of Annihilation is a 4 drop. When it enters, you get 2 little tokens. Your Eldrazi themselves can tap for any color, all of them can. And whenever you cast a creature spell with mana 7 or greater, you're going to gain 4 life. From Beyond, very similar to Awakening Zone, same effect, every upkeep get another Eldrazi token, but you can pay 2, sacrifice it and go and search yourself for a Eldrazi card, put it into your hand, shuffle your library. It is handy in the late game. Glaring Flesh Raker, we mentioned before, when you cast him you get yourself an Eldrazi token, but whenever another colorless creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get to deal 1 damage to each opponent. It really pumps a bit of damage on your opponent across the length of the game. Spawnbed Protector, just beginning of your end step, return an Eldrazi creature from your graveyard to your hand, and you get to create 2 tokens. Love it.
It's wizard time, mother...
Some big spells to consider. We have Rise of Eldrazi. It's flavorful, it's fun, it's themed around all 3 Eldrazi themselves. It's 12 mana, can't be countered, sorcery. Destroy a permanent, someone draws 4 cards, and you take an extra turn. Love it. It's fun. It's not like the best thing in the world, but if you get it off, it's great. All those dust is our very one-sided board wipe. Desecrate Reality is fun with our big Eldrazi. For each opponent, exile up to 1 target permanent that player controls with an even mana value. And if you use 3 colorless mana to cast it, return a permanent with an odd mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield. Just pick one of your Eldrazi, just dump them back in. I love the command, gives it lots of options for Eldrazi. Even just making tokens and drawing cards, you're loving life right there. We have our own Confluence now. You get to choose any mode 3 times or any mix of them. Just nuke something in the ground with -3, make a ton of tokens, or exile some things and bring them back. There's Eldritch Immunity, which is our board protection, gives something protection from all colors to end a turn. We can overload it, give all your creatures pro color. Warping Whale, just a cheap little thing, can make a token, exile a little creature, maybe counter a sorcery spell. Nail Blast is pretty fun. Most of the time, you're just going to counter yourself a multicolored spell with someone's commander. Love it. Titan's Presence just lets you nuke a creature on the board from your hand by showing them one of your big creatures. Ego Erasure is a changing, so it's still an Eldrazi spell, but all your opponent's creatures get -2 and lose all their creature types on the turn. It's just here to be another option to cap off the stack for your commander to copy everything below it, but it does give you protection and maybe messes up your opponent's tribal theme they're doing. Mithril Coat is just here to protect our commander. You can flash it in, auto-equips the commander. Easy. Kozilek's Return, it's just a burn spell, and if we cast a fat Eldrazi, we get to do it again. Love it. Ugin's Binding can be like a Cyclonic Rift, but one-sided when we cast another Eldrazi. Very similar to Kozilek's Return. Ancient Stirrings, we're just going to dig 5 and get ourselves a colorless creature, or a colorless card from put into our hand. It's good.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
Draw. Skull Clamp is pretty good in this deck. Just the Eldrazi get equipped, they die. If the Eldrazi spawn are buffed by any effect, you don't care because the spawn itself is a sack outlet. Just equip it, sacrifice it, draw 2 cards. You've got also 1 mana, equip to the next spawn, and just keep going through it. It's so good that I actually consider running Urza's Saga if I wanted to spend like the $40 on it. Return to the Wild Speaker is just a fat draw. Draw cards equal to the greatest power amongst the creatures you control. You're an Eldrazi player, you got some fat creatures. Up the Beanstalk's great because it's whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater, you get to draw a card. Works with your like stack mechanics. Kindred Discovery, you name Eldrazi, every time Eldrazi enters the battlefield, you're going to draw a card. All the tokens into the battlefield, draw a ton of cards. That's where Crewfix's God of Horizon comes in, because your hand size is maxed. Getting to mana now. Ugin, Planeswalker. Honestly, I do not care what his abilities do, except the fact he makes all my color spells cost 2 less to cast. Great. Urza's Incubator, I'm just going to name Eldrazi, make them cheaper again. Sylvan Scrying, it tutors for a land, puts into your hand. Really good because we've got some strong lands we do care about later on. We run all our talismans, Arcane Signet, Sol Ring, nothing different here. We do run Basalt Monolith, which goes infinite with Forsaken Monument, because whenever you tap a permanent for colorless, get additional colorless. That means Basalt Monolith taps for 4, but can tap itself for 3. Infinite mana, Crowbank Lantern just for some land fixing later on. I do like Monument of Perfection. It's not the most competitive card, but with the Locust Land cycle, it's pretty fun. You pay 3, tap it, search the item for a basic, sphere, or Locust Land, put it into your hand. With the Locust Land, you've got Glimmer Post, which gains you life based on the number of locusts you control. Trench Post, which can mill people based on the number of locusts you control. You don't care about those two at all. It's a Cloud Post. It's like a budget Tron land. It taps for generic mana, equal number of locust land you control. Really helpful. Plus, the monument itself can go and fetch your basics, which we run 2 Island, 2 Mountain, 2 Forest, and 5 Waste. Of course, we run the Tron lands. Ton of mana right there. They can tap for at least 1 colorless whenever we need, or maybe mid-late game they're giving us additional mana. We have our 2 copy lands here, which are really good for like maybe your Tron lands or your Locust lands to get those counts higher up. Sanctum Ugin taps for colors we need, but late game it can go tutor for a big Eldrazi if we need. Shrine of Forsaken just scales up during the late game with additional mana production. Eldrazi Temple, it's a no-brainer. Guildless Common, it's another easy, cheap, extra high mana land. Bonder's Enclave and Fountain Pool are draw outlets in our land slot, which we care about. Tomb of the Spirit Dragon actually gains you quite a bit of life in this deck if you've got free mana floating around. The Well Tree just taps for green, but it fixes a pile of land late game, and if we need to sack it, we can go get Chris God of the Horizon if we want to store mana. Emergent Zone, it's another way to cast Flash. I love Unclaimed Territory, it's a Secluded Courtyard. Tap for colors or any color for a creature type of our chosen type. Wonderful. Bountiful Landscape, again, taps the generic, or when we're free we can sack it to go and get whatever basic we need. And then for color we run our 3 Pain lands, which tap for colors and the color we need at the time. Command Tower, and I do like Cascading Cataracts to try and filter into the colors you might need if you want to cast your commander that way. Alright, so that is Ulalek, the Fused Atrocity. He is a strong, scary commander. Like I said, you could spend hundreds of dollars on upgrades for like the big 3 Eldrazi, really strong land slots if you want. There's a lot of upgrades for him. I've tried to do this on the cheaper side if I can for a more Eldrazi themed tribal deck. I love this commander. I'm currently putting my list together. I'm buying pieces right now offline. Just kind of sucks it's expensive to get like as a pre-con, so single it is. Alright, thank you guys. If you liked the video, give it a like, sub. I'm back. I'm really enjoying Magic again, and have a good one. See you later.